My pleasant good morning to each one of you, especially to Honorable Padmanabh Rao Garu and his daughter Honorable Sailija Garu. And best wishes to all the youngsters who are here. I'm very happy to speak to you today on an important, very important subjects. Firstly, about the amendments which changed the course of India, the amendments of the Constitution. And while speaking about these important amendments, if necessary, I will have to explain to each one of you all the circumstances and facts that were forced to have the amendments. Without understanding which prompted or compelled for making those amendments, we will not be able to understand any amendment. For this, we need to understand that the Constitution of India is the principal document that formulates the rights, duties, and powers of citizens, governments, and its officials. After spending nearly 3 years' time, on 26th January 1950, the Constitution came into force. You know that it is an extensive Constitution due to our society needs, which are ever evolving. In order to keep pace with the Constitution and to see that it will not become redundant or lead to breakdown of law and order, we need to have amendments. We already discussed how the amendments can be made and how many amendments have been made till now, and what amendments to the Constitution require a special majority of 2/3 members present and voting to be passed in Parliament and other things. There are about 9 important amendments. You know about the first amendment which we discussed very clearly. And now we will just see what are the other 9 important amendments and especially discuss about 42nd and 44th amendments. These 2 amendments we call as mini constitution. Before we actually go and discuss about those 2 amendments, let us know what are the other important amendments, which are the most significant amendments. We can say there are 9 amendments. In 1956, abolition of states according to classes and the introduction of union territories and reorganization of states by language. This was the first amendment. This was one of the first significant reform. Why? Because with this amendment, reforms are made to the boundaries of Indian states and territories, organizing them by the language spoken in those areas. With this amendment, systematically arranged the states and lowered the complexity of the state boundaries. It also abolished the classification of states by progress and per capita income of the states. Then two important amendments. One is 42nd Amendment in 1976. With this amendment, we inserted socialism and secularism in the preamble, a provision on fundamental. Secularism and socialism were inserted to restore the faith of the nation that minorities would be shaped and not be exploited by the rich strata. Also, the rich would not be allowed to dominate the country's economy. The main reason to add socialism was to promote social as well as economic equality in the country. Similarly, the main reason to add secularism was to imply that there was no official state religion of the country. So just to show that our country follows socialism and our country have the feature of secularism. It has no official state religion for the country. So religion does not dominate in India so far as the constitution is concerned. Then we have third amendment out of the 9 important amendments, that is right to property, deleted from the list of fundamental rights in 1978. The fundamental right to the property in India was removed with this amendment to permit the reorganization of land and to facilitate land acquisition for developmental projects. This was carried out by the Indian government at that time, since it was not affluent enough to pay people whatever they demanded for their land. So in order to avoid demanded payment for the land acquired, this right to property is deleted from the fundamental rights and made as a constitutional right. So this is the third important amendment out of the 9 amendments which are important. Then one more amendment which made lawmakers may be disqualified on the grounds of defection. Law of defection. This is in the year 1985. This was quite a controversial amendment in itself, since it was felt that this law would invade on the right of free speech of lawmakers. Under the amendment, a member of parliament or state legislature was considered to have defected if they either on their own resigned from their party or violated the directions of the party leadership on a vote. That is, they may not vote on any issue in violation to the party's decision. Independent members would be disqualified if they joined a political party. Nominated members who were not members of a party could choose to join a party within 6 months after that period. They were treated as a party member or independent member. This is the fourth important amendment out of the 9 important amendments of the Constitution. Then another important amendment in 1989, voting age being reduced from 21 to 18. The then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi had explained that it has an expression of the government's full faith in the youth of the country. The youth are aware and informed, and thus lowering of the voting age would provide an opportunity to the unrepresented youth of the nation to vent out their feelings and motivate them to become a part of the political process eventuality. Then next, 6th important amendment is introduction of Nagarapalikas and municipalities in 1993. During the early 90s, local bodies in states had become ineffective in holding regular elections or the maintenance of public infrastructure, electricity and water supply. Thus, an immediate need to introduce effective authorities to execute the numerous plans and programs was felt by the government. So this amendment introduced Nagarpalikas and municipality as part of the constitutional scheme and to hold regular elections for the same. This is the 6th important amendment out of the 9 important amendments of the Constitution. The 7th one is free and compulsory education to children between 6 to 14 years. This is made in 2002. This is very important amendments. The government directed private schools to take 25% of their class strength from economically weaker or disadvantaged groups of society through a random selection process with the help of the government funding. This initiative was taken to try and provide elementary education to all. Moreover, the local and state governments were made to ensure its proper implementation. This is also very important because it relates to education of all the youth and to provide compulsory education to children between 6 to 14 years. This, the 7th amendment, which is important out of the 9 important amendments of the Constitution. Then 8th amendment, it allowed the government to pass laws relating to reservations to socially, economically backward classes, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in public and private higher educational institutions. So scheduled castes and scheduled tribes have been the most neglected and exploited people in India. The curse of untouchability has always been a dark spot on Indian civilization and culture. Despite the constitutional declaration of its abolition under Article 17, it was still quite prevalent in many subtle and not so subtle ways. Therefore, for the very integrity, survival and the nation's unity, the amendment to pass laws relating to such reservations were quite a need of the hour. So in 2014, reservations to socially, economically backward classes, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in public and private higher educational institutions are made by allowing the government to pass laws relating to them. This is the 8th important amendment out of the 9 important amendments. Then what is the 9th amendment? This 9th amendment is introduction of the goods and service tax, that is GST, to present the idea of one nation, one tax 2016. With this, consumers would not be subjected to double or multiple taxations. All taxes that are imposed while purchasing goods will include both the central government's taxes as well as the state government taxes. The introduction of GST has deterred the state governments from randomly increasing taxes. So this is a 9th important amendment out of the 9 important amendments up to 2016. Then We have two other important amendments which you know. One is about Kashmir, that is Jammu Kashmir. This Jammu Kashmir, you know, 370 article and amendment of constitution, etc. That is also very important amendments. Then we have another national citizenship amendment. About it, you know very well.
Recording in progress.
Then, very important today, we are going to discuss in detail about 42 and 44 amendments. We call it as mini constitution amendments, constitutional amendments. For discussion of these two important amendments, we need to know the then conditions, facts and circumstances. Without understanding that, we will not be able to proceed at all. Why so? They are called as mini constitutional amendments because major changes, very major changes were occurred. 42nd Amendment was enacted during the emergency, 25 June 1975 to 21 March 1977. There was emergency in India. Emergency was imposed by the then government headed by Indira Gandhi, and the party is Indian National Congress. Most of this 42nd Amendment provisions of the amendment came into effect on 3rd January 1977. Some of other important amendments, part of this 42nd Amendment, were enforced from 1st February, and Section 27 came into force on 1st April 1977. This 42nd Amendment is regarded as the most controversial constitutional amendment in history. Why it is so? Because it attempted to reduce the powers of High Court and Supreme Court, and it also attempted directly to reduce the power of the Supreme Court and High Courts to deal with the constitutional validity of the laws. It laid down the fundamental duties of Indian citizens to the nation. This amendment brought about the most widespread changes to the Constitution in its history. Many parts of the Constitution, including the preamble and amending clause, were changed by the 42nd Amendment. Some new articles and sections were inserted. 59 clauses which are inserted. Stripped the Supreme Court of many of its powers and moved the political system toward parliamentary sovereignty. It curtailed democratic rights in the country and gave sweeping powers to the Prime Minister's office. Unrestrained power to amend any parts of the Constitution without judicial review. It transferred more power from the state governments to the central government, eroding India's federal structure. The 42nd Amendment also amended preamble and changed the description of India from sovereign democratic republic to a sovereign socialist secular democratic republic, and also changed the words unity of the nation to the unity and integrity of the nation. The emergency era had been widely unpopular, and the 42nd Amendment was the most controversial issue. The clampdown on civil liberties and widespread abuse of human rights by police angered the public. And the Janata Party, which had promised to restore the constitution to the condition it was in before the emergency, won the 1977 general elections. The Janata government then brought about the 43rd and 44th amendments in 1977 and 1978 respectively to restore the 1 minute and hello.
సార్ నాకు హోస్ట్ ఆప్షన్ వెళ్ళిపోయింది సార్, మీకే వచ్చేసింది. అన్మ్యూట్ చేయడానికి రావట్లేదు.
ఇస్తానమ్మా. So Janata Party government, when it has come into power, it has made two important amendments, that is 43rd and 44th amendments in 1977 and 1978 respectively, to restore the pre-1976 position to some extent. But ultimately this Janata Party also not able to fully achieve its objectives. So that is another reason for falling of that government. On 31st July 1980, the Honorable Supreme Court in Minerva Mills versus Union of India case delivered a judgment declaring unconstitutional of the two provisions of the 42nd Amendment, which prevent any constitutional amendment from being called in question in any court on any ground, and accord precedence to the directive principles of state policy over the fundamental rights of individuals respectively. That's how these two important amendments, 42nd and 44th amendments, are treated as mini constitutional amendments. So mini constitution, we can say. Now let us see what is the reason for all this. Why all these things have happened. Unless and until we understand, then circumstances which compelled the then party in power to make those amendments, we will never be able to understand those amendments. I am trying to explain to you some important facts and circumstances which are part of the history of our country, and especially constitutional experts say that these amendments have changed the destiny of our country and totally made our country to proceed in different directions. We have to understand certain important aspects regarding emergency. What was happened is on 12th June 1973-75. Please note that this is a very important date. Very, very important date. What has happened on that day? On 12th June 1975, one Justice Sinha, the name of the judge is Sinha. This Sinha judge of the Allahabad High Court held that Mrs. Gandhi had been guilty of corrupt electoral practices, and he disqualified her from holding public office for 6 years as the law obliged him to do. But he gave 20 days time to proceed against that judgment in appeal and question the judgment of him. Please note the date. The date is 12th June 1975. The name of the judge is Sinha. He is the judge of the High Court, Allahabad High Court. What he did is, he gave a judgment on that day holding Mrs. Gandhi guilty of corrupt electoral practices, and he disqualified the then Prime Minister Mrs. Gandhi from holding public office for 6 years as per law. Then he stayed the operation of his order for 20 days. Then Honorable High Court delivered its judgment. Within 20 days, Mrs. Gandhi, the then Prime Minister, put an application to Supreme Court to grant stay of the orders. But unwisely prayed for an absolute stay, presumably on the grounds which our eminent counsel, Mr. Zalaga, pressed upon Krishna Iyer judge, namely that the nation was solidly behind her as Prime Minister, and that there were momentous consequences disastrous to the country if anything less than the total suspension of the order and appeal were made. He made a prayer like this in his application. Why that prayer is unwise? If the court gave a conditional stay, public demand that she should step down as Prime Minister would grow, as in fact it did. Undeterred by Mrs. Gandhi's position as the Prime Minister of India, or by some brave warning of her counsel, Krishna Iyer judge granted a conditional stay. She asked an absolute stay through her counsel, Mr. N.A. Palkiwala, in Honorable Supreme Court, but the judge of the Honorable Supreme Court, namely Krishna Iyer, he granted a conditional stay. What is that stay? Mrs. Gandhi was prevented from participating in the proceedings of the Lok Sabha in her capacity as a member or from receiving remuneration as a member and was prevented from voting. However, in her capacity as Prime Minister, she was entitled to take part of the proceedings of both the houses of Parliament, but was prevented from voting. So these facts are very important. Justice Sinha gave a judgment holding that she is guilty of the corrupt practices in her elections and disqualified her from continuing as a member of Parliament or holding any public office for 6 years, then granted 20 days time for preferring appeal, and she preferred appeal through her counsel N.A. Palkiwala, and the Judge Honorable Krishna Iyer granted a conditional stay. What is that condition? She is not entitled to put a vote and also receive remuneration as a salary or remuneration, whatever it is, as a member of Parliament in her capacity in Lok Sabha. Then we have to understand political activities. Several rallies were stage managed in Delhi, and people were brought to Delhi in public vehicles in contravention of the requirements of the law for the use of public vehicles. Government organizations were obliged to take part in these rallies. The law was applied in favor of the Congress party and against other political parties. The prohibition of meetings under Section 144 CRPC, which had become a normal feature around the Prime Minister's house, which had become a normal feature, was relaxed to allow demonstration and rallied staged by the Congress party in support of Mrs. Gandhi. So what we have to understand is one single judgment of the Justice Sinha of the Allahabad High Court compelled Mrs. Gandhi to approach the Honorable Supreme Court to get a stay of the order of the judgment of the High Court. Justice Krishna Iyer, the then judge, he granted a conditional stay. She is not entitled for voting. So in these circumstances, what is left to the then government is to impose emergency. So before the emergency was actually proclaimed, Mrs. Gandhi took confidence of some officials and chief ministers and then advised the president to proclaim an emergency. Even the cabinet was not informed till after the emergency had been proclaimed. So rules of business are not followed. Work relating to the emergency provisions of our constitution was allocated to the Home Ministry. Consequently, a proposal for the proclamation of emergency should normally come from that ministry. The cabinet secretary did not receive any proposals from the Home Ministry. So what I want to say is, without following any procedure of law, even administration of business rules, this emergency has brought into and emergency subverted the constitution in a number of ways. How there was an attack on free press by imposing on it censorship. MISA Act, the Maintenance of Internal Security Act, 1971. It's a most infamous law in India. Preventive detention was implemented. Like that, the rights of citizens, both fundamental rights and other rights, are taken away. So there is no other go. In those circumstances, in order to curtail the fundamental rights, to make amendments. So this emergency raised grave problems of constitutional law. The safeguards provided by our constitution against abuse of power and against arbitrary power were swept away almost overnight. For not only had power been broadly divided between the three departments of the state, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, but power had also been divided territorially between the union and the states by the federal scheme of our constitution, with the distribution of legislative and executive power between the union and states. Then state governments vied with each other in doing Mrs. Gandhi's bidding, notwithstanding that they were governments of separate states. No easy answers are possible, but no more imperative tax awaits the citizen, the politician, the lawyer, and the legislature than to find those answers if the ghost of the emergency is to be laid forever. The emergency and its aftermath have made it necessary to discuss the question whether our constitution is federal. If it is a federal constitution, states and center governments must have different powers, separate powers. Power had also been divided territorially between the union and state and the states by the federal scheme of our constitution. But that is also taken away. So what we have to understand is, in view of the holding
Shall
of...
we join again, sir? Shall we join again?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Please, students, please join again.